Well, there's that trout, chunky little planter. Couldn't lay off that gold spoon, and looks like my dad's gonna be eating good tonight. We'll see if we fish on. Woo! All right. Woo! There we go. Nice clean trout. Oh, nice rainbow there on the spoon. Cool deal. Real.
I'm reeling.
Oh.
Nice! Wow!
Wow!
Whoa!
Look at that! Wow!
Beautiful fish!
What teamwork! What a fish! That's what you come to Lake Elsinore for. Look at that incredible rainbow. We'll get a closer look at that. We got tangled lines. Oh. Now my wife Gina, she's a little shy. She doesn't want to be on camera. Look at that beast she just caught. Look at that amazing fish. That's every bit of 5 pounds. That's what you come to Lake Elsinore for. We've been up here for 2 days. We've had 3 strikes, but one fish is over 3 and one fish is over 5. What an incredible fish. Look at the girth on that. I have big hands. I can't nearly get my hand around that fish. That fish was on my lead core rig. He was about 8 feet deep. Howdy folks, Cal Kellogg here. Now you just saw 3 rainbow trout get caught in very different situations, different locations, different circumstances. That first fish, that was a planted rainbow I caught this week up at Sugar Pine Reservoir right here in the Sierra foothills. The second trout, well, that was a Shasta Lake rainbow I caught back in early September. That fish was about 100 feet deep up there in Silverthorn Bay, feeding on threadfin shad. And that final rainbow, that big giant fish, well, my wife Gina and I caught that just last week at Lake Elsinore. That fish was about 8 feet deep. So what do all 3 of those rainbow trout have in common? I'll tell you, they were all caught on trigger spoons. That's a selection of trigger spoons right there. What is a trigger spoon? Well, I'll tell you. That is my signature series of trout spoons. I wasn't going to market these. I wasn't going to share these with anybody. You've seen me catch a lot of big fish on these spoons on the channel, but I've never mentioned them in video before. Let me give you a little background on these spoons. About 10 years ago, I started playing with spoon manufacturing, looking for the ultimate trout spoon. Just, kind of mixing and matching, concepts, shapes, different things. And my goal was to come up with a very versatile spoon that would catch fish in the high Sierras, that would catch fish in foothill reservoirs where threadfin shad and pond smelt are the primary forage, and a spoon that would catch trout, all the way down in the valley and at Bay Area lakes that allowed trolling, like Lake Del Valle. And I've come up with just that. It's taken me about 10 years. About 4 years ago, I had this series of spoons dialed in, and I started catching a whole bunch of fish on them. And my wife said, you need to market these spoons. And I was like, I don't know. Then Wes Ward, my partner on the FHS YouTube channel, he was like, we need to put these spoons for sale. And I was like, I don't know. It's kind of like my deal, and I'm not so sure. The final straw was Dan Bacher at the Fish Sniffer. Dan told me, you're in the business of helping people catch more and bigger fish, primarily trout, and you have a great tool for that in your series of spoons, your trigger spoons, and you should market those. And Dan's been doing this forever. He's been Fish Sniffer editor for more than 30 years, and long story short, this year I decided to take his advice and put together a series of spoons that I am going to market exclusively through my YouTube channel. Let's talk a little bit about the spoons. Let me grab a chrome one here. This is the spoon. This is actually the actual spoon that my wife caught that huge rainbow at Lake Elsinore last week on. So here's the deal with trigger spoons. Here's the first and foremost, they are extremely versatile. What makes for a versatile spoon? Well, a few things, but primarily to me, that means a spoon that can be run at a variety of different speeds. Now, there's spoons on the market that work well slow. There's spoons on the market that work well fast. But I like to mix and match. I like to have a spoon that one day I can run fast, you know, and team it with a Rapala or something like that on another rod. The next day, it might call for slow trolling. I might be trolling a threaded worm on one rod, and I need a spoon that'll run, you know, at a slow speed. Well, my trigger spoons, the reason we call them trigger spoons is they trigger strikes from, you know, predators, trout, salmon, even bass in freshwater lakes. But my trigger spoons, they can be trolled anywhere from 1.6 to 3+ miles an hour. The sweet spot is definitely about 2.2 to 2.5, but you could troll them slow and catch fish. You could troll them, you know, when it calls for an aggressive presentation. You can go all the way up to and beyond 3 miles an hour. You're going to get an aggressive wiggle, an aggressive roll on that spoon at high speeds, and they just straight out trigger strikes. That's the chrome version. All of my spoons, they're 2 1/4 inches long. They're a 1/2 inch wide at the widest point. They all come equipped with a red treble, premium red treble, and they have a big eye. Size was very important to me when I started developing spoons. And here's why. You know, big bait, big fish, that's true. But if we all went around trolling 8-inch long Rapalas, yes, we would catch big trout, but we wouldn't catch a lot of small trout. And sometimes you're at a lake that doesn't have any huge trout. So I needed a spoon that was large enough to trigger strikes from large trout. And we've caught trout up to 6 pounds on these spoons, but small enough that it didn't totally intimidate and scare away the pan-sized trout. At a place like, you know, Sugar Pine Reservoir, there are very few trout over 2 pounds, but you can still run this spoon effectively there. Big enough to tempt strikes from big fish, but small enough to still get hit by pan-sized rainbows. That was the goal, and that goal's been achieved. The next consideration, you know, once I figured out I wanted a red treble, and that comes from my background of hanging out with bass pros. Those guys will take a crankbait and switch out one of the hooks and put a red hook on it. And I asked them, you know, I've asked several bass pros, does that really work? And they're like, you know what? A lot of the fish that I catch or that we catch, they're hooked on that red treble. And that tells them the bass are targeting that hook. When I started putting red trebles on, you know, various trout spoons, I started noticing that I hooked more fish. I hooked the fish more solidly, blah, blah, blah. Bottom line is, I'm sold on red trebles, so that's what I've armed my spoons with. Colors of spoons. If you watch the channel, you know my philosophy. If you're at a bait fish lake, a lake where the fish feed on threadfin shad or pond smelt, you want to start off trolling fairly quickly with a metallic colored bait fish imitating spoon. So my spoon set had to have those bait fish, you know, colors covered. Now, if you're up in the high Sierras, I like to go bright and bold. So let's look at the spoons. We look down here at the metallic end of the spectrum, which you're going to find. I'm offering these spoons in a 6-spoon set, which you're going to find right here. You've got chrome, you've got hammered gold, and you've got copper. Jewelry quality finishes, tons of flash, very high quality metallic finishes. Now on the painted end, moving down, we've got hot pink with a chrome back. We've got a black spoon, midnight black, with a chrome back. And we've got hot orange with a chrome back. Now, if I'm up in the high Sierras, the orange, the pink, they're dynamite. And as I've said here dozens of times on this channel, low light conditions, either an overcast day or early in the day, late in the day, you need a black lure, and you've got that midnight black spoon. So those are the 6 colors I went with. Those 6 colors will match the situation, you know, 99% of the time when you're out on the water, whether you're trolling for wild rainbows up at Lake Almanor or you're trolling for planters down at Lake Comanche. You're going to have the lures that you need to hook up and a lure that you can run across a variety of speeds. So there's the full 6-spoon set. You'll find these in my store. I've tried to price them very economically. You're going to get all 6 of those spoons for $25 delivered to your house. You can't get them anywhere else. This is my signature series of trigger spoons. I assemble every spoon myself in my office with great attention to detail. They flat out fish. These are the same spoons you've seen me using dozens of times on the channel, but this is the first time I've shared with you what I'm actually using. Do I still use other spoons? Do I still use humdingers and cripplers and on and on and on? Absolutely. But more and more often, I find myself reaching for my trigger spoons because they flat out produce results. They produce small fish. They produce planted fish. And as you can see from that video at the opening, they produce trophy-sized fish. When those trophy-sized fish are available and ready to go, the trigger spoon will trigger strikes from those big old trophy trout. Anyway, I've rambled on long enough. I'm very excited, as you can see, about this announcement. I've sold flies for many years. I've tied probably over 100,000 trout flies in my fly tying career. I never thought I would be marketing trout spoons, but I've taken the plunge. There's my 6 spoon set of trigger spoons. They flat out fish. They will trigger strikes for you. Jump on over to the FHS store. Wes will put up a link here somewhere. I don't know how that works. I know how to assemble spoons, but I don't know how that works. But hit that link. Get on over there. We've got a decent supply, but supplies are limited. Click on the buy button, click on the purchase button, and we will get a set of trigger spoons headed your way in a short amount of time. And remember, this is the only place you can find them. They are not available at stores, on websites, nowhere else but directly from me. Get your trigger spoons and get out there on the water and get after those trout. Anyway, I'm Kel Kellogg, guys. Thanks for all the support on the channel. If it wasn't for you guys, there wouldn't be an FHS channel. We appreciate it. We love doing what we're doing, and I will catch you next time right here on YouTube, guys. Look forward to seeing you out on the water. This is Kel Kellogg, and I'm signing off.